You're listening to Bold Calling, a podcast presented by Orem, where every episode we're bringing on the biggest and brightest minds in the tech and sales industries for a discussion about their biggest challenges and the unique ways they're working to solve them. I'm your host, Adam Sockel, and today I'm joined by Michael Pedone, founder of SalesBuzz. Michael, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, Adam, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
So for people who may be tuning into their first episode, a quick reminder, we're going to talk about Michael's experience, his career, and then his company first. And then our second segment, we'll dive into the things that are stressing him out and how he's working to resolve those. And then we'll have some fun after that with some speed round questions. So first things first, Michael, do you want to kind of introduce yourself and take our listeners through your career path? And then we'll dive into SalesBuzz.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, hi, everybody. My name is Michael Pedone. I founded salesbuzz.com. I want to say between 2008 and 10-ish is kind of when I started it. I started it after I sold my last company, which was a search engine optimization company, which I started back in 2002. And I was fortunate enough to grow it and sell it for a 7-figure cash deal. And then I was like, well, what do I want to do next? And I started sales training. What did I do before that? I've always been a straight commission sales rep. Look, I never went to college. I barely graduated high school. I grew up poor. I actually wanted to be a rock star when I was growing up. Before I met my wife, I was waiting to hear back from Ozzy Osbourne if I was going to get the guitar gig. But sales was really a lifeline during that time period, right? And it's like one of the things that I loved about sales is that the better you are at sales, you could literally live like a rock star, right? Because there's no salary cap ceiling. The better you are, the more you sell, the more money you can make. And, growing up with the background that I had, I definitely wanted to have a better future, for myself and my eventual future family. And sales was something that I could walk in as a straight commission sales rep. I didn't need a college degree. I just had to get really good at sales and hit the phones. And that's what I did.
I want to ask you about that because I'm the son of a salesman. My father owned an insurance agency for about 30 years. He was a State Farm insurance agent, and he too was, straight commission, obviously basically 100% of the money he brought in. And my brother is a CRO now, and he was working straight commission for a long time as well. And I'm curious, and I'm sure there are people listening in who are maybe new to the sales space, and maybe it's stressing them out. How did you grow to get comfortable with that uncomfortable feeling of knowing like, okay, my next paycheck is 100% dependent on the work I put in? Or was it something that you were just always naturally comfortable thinking about?
No, I don't think you could ever, comfortable, that's an interesting word. It's like, so if we go back to the beginning, I had no other choice, right? If I didn't have a college education, right, and things of that nature, like what was I going to do and make a good living at it, right? So it really was, the sales was where you could, easy to get into, and if you learned the right techniques, you made a lot of money, providing you get with the right company and things of that nature, right? There's right companies, there's wrong companies, things of that nature, but it's a trial and error, right? But it was just, I think today's sales reps, it's a really good question. I don't think anybody's ever asked me, how did I get comfortable with straight commissions? Like, I just don't think I had another choice. I didn't want to repeat the lifestyle that I had to grow up with. Your parents get divorced, things of that nature. It's in the 80s, whatever, 70s, 80s, because I'm aging myself a little bit, right? But it was different times, but it's like, it was the only way out. And it's like, I think my desire to have success, it was the driving factor. So I didn't care, what it took to get there. And I always believed that, if somebody else was doing it, I could do it too. I just had to make sure I learned from the right people. The last thing you want to do in anything is take advice from somebody that's achieved less than what you're after. So you definitely want to go ahead and find the right people, and whether it's through books or mentors or just watching. But I think you just had, I think it was a necessity. I needed to do it. It was either sink or swim. And I appreciated that.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite things about the sales space is that it's one of these things where it is the bar of entry, if you just are getting started and you take a entry level position, is relatively low. It's be willing to learn, be willing to fail and learn from those failures. Be willing to, in our situation, pick up the phone, be willing to reach out to people, whatever it is. Like, as long as you're willing, like you said, be willing to learn, be willing to go find the right people to learn from. And it is something where it's easy to start, and it does take a lifetime to master, and you can always continuously improve. But I do love the, like, for a space that people tend to talk about negatively about the stresses of quota, the stresses of finding that next deal. I do appreciate the, like, positivity aspect of, like, anyone can sell if you are willing to learn how to sell. And that's not true for, like, not everyone can be a rocket scientist. Like, I love the ocean. I couldn't have been a biologist. I can sell.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think their sales is a lot more acceptable. Like, there's a lot more opportunities to learn it. But one thing is, I don't think it takes a lifetime to learn it if you learn from the right people. I mean, there's so much bad sales advice out there. And just when with internet and things, remember, I was in sales before the internet was around, right? So basically, if you want to learn how to sell, you could only learn from the peers around you, or you buy a book, or you go to a seminar, right? Now you got the internet, you can look up something, because there was no YouTube back at the time. But even now, there's so much misinformation where people, you don't know if they're really successful or not. I mean, they're acting like it in the video and things of that nature. But when I watch their sales techniques, a lot of times, I mean, there's very few people that I think, they've got it right. And so that bad information is just getting spun out there all the time. And I'm sitting back, especially today, because I'm seeing so many SDRs and things of that nature struggle, and they're not focusing on the one thing that will solve that. They're like, oh, it can't be that. It has to be something else. And I'm like, you just need to learn what to say, how to say it, why to say it, when to say it, and follow a very simple process, and you're going to do well. Again, providing that you have a good product or service or solution, things of that, and everything else being equal. But today, I think people just expect to send emails and a text and a funny video and a little LinkedIn message, and they expect to hit their quota, and they're getting paid ungodly amount of money on a base salary. And I think those days are coming to an end soon. I think the companies are starting to realize that we're way overpaying for the results that we're getting for a lot of sales teams, and I'm starting to see that the ramifications of that now.
Yeah. So this actually transitions really well into talking a little bit about SalesBuzz. I want you to, I would love for people to learn about your company and the ways that you are providing proper sales instruction, and just kind of walk through, how it came to be. You mentioned being fortunate enough to sell your previous company, and, like, I would love to learn about how SalesBuzz came to be and its current iteration, something you and I have talked about previously.
Yeah, sure. I appreciate you asking. So, let me just give you the whole story. I mean, I was working as a straight commission sales rep. My wife wanted to start her own business right when we were about to get married, and she was working for this company where she was going to resell software. She got it was a large company. It was a company called Best Software at the time. They were bought out by Sage, whatever. But they had this big conference that was down in Tampa. She got invited to as a VAR, and we went there, and there was awards handed out. This is a true story. The awards were handed out. She didn't win an award. Other people won an award because they created a website. What the hell's a website? Like, that's how new this was. Like, they created their own website, and they started getting leads through the internet. And like, she was like, she took it, she was fine. Okay, I didn't win an award, but I felt like she was slighted. I felt like she felt like she was slighted, and I took it personally. And so then I actually went and did research on websites and how to build websites, how to rank well. And I'm like, I'm going to build you a website, and I'm going to get you ranked. I'm just competitive that way, right? So you can get your company going. And then, I went and learned all about this SEO stuff, and I built it. And then I'm like, oh, you just wait like 90 days, and because it takes that long for the search engines. Like, within 30 days, all of a sudden, she started getting all these leads. She started closing business. And then she went from she went from like an individual to all of a sudden she's got like a team of 10, 15 people, like, because all of the leads that we were generating. And I'm like, man, I got something here. So the economy was crashing. This is back in the 2000 .com bomb era, if you're old enough to remember that, right? And so I'm like, I went off on I had a full-time job at the time, but I would go home at night and I would research, and I started my own side hustle, a search engine optimization company. And I kicked off in 2002, and I used all the sales techniques I learned as a straight commission sales rep. So not only do I have a full-time job, but I got this side hustle, And it got to the point where my full-time job was costing me more money, right? Because it was building. So I left and I just went all in, straight commissions, and built it. And I used all my techniques. I hired people. I mean, if the salespeople that I hired, if they were half as good as what their resume said they would have been, I probably would have sold it for 10 times more. But they weren't. So I quickly learned that they're using bad techniques. They don't have a system. They don't have a process. And I know that this is a simple process to follow. I want them to be themselves, but I taught them these are the questions you have to ask and why and how and whatnot. They started doing it. Next thing you know, the company starts really growing. And then I got fortunate enough to get on the radar of a Swedish company that was buying companies. They came and they made me an offer I couldn't refuse, and I cashed out. And so that's what happened then. And then I was like, okay, what do I want to do next? I mean, listen, you get 7 figures. It was a lot of money for somebody that grew up, in a trailer or whatever, right? So now I got this cash. What do I do next? And it wasn't enough to live forever off of it. So I was like, what do I want to do? I had a couple of business ideas, and I'm like, I'm really passionate about teaching people the right way to sell, because I know what it feels like to have the phone feel like a 25-pound weight and you don't want to pick it up anymore, or you're getting rejected, call after call, and then you don't even want to pick it up. Now you can just email and just go. You can pretend like you're researching or you're doing this to try to keep your manager off your back for a little bit. But at the end of the day, if you're not producing, you're not putting extra money in your pocket. And I know exactly what they were doing wrong. And I'm like, let me teach people what I know. And that's where we went. And that's when I started SalesBuzz.
And then so SalesBuzz started, if I remember you tell me correctly, it started as like a lot of in-person like presentations and kind of walking through, or am I misremembering?
Yeah, no, actually it was always, I was always by the phone. Actually, this is what I did. When I started the first company, for eTraffic Jams, which was my SEO company, I went to a really big company, a well-known company in Tampa, said, let me do it for free so I could get your name recognition. I went ahead and I did the work on there, built that up to where it had a big name. I could use that to other people. That's how I was getting business in. It was always by phone. So even though I was working full time, and then I did this other side project with a big name company that everybody would know, I got them great results. They gave me a good testimonial. And then I would just get on the phone saying, hey, we recently helped so-and-so get these results. I think I could do the same for you. I just need to ask you a few questions. Would that be okay? And they're like, yeah, let's talk. And then I'm in. I mean, it was all on the phone. Yeah.
So your kind of opener, as people like to say from a cold call standpoint, is very like customer story based, like using experience of organizations that they might recognize the names of to kind of give that credibility to your services.
So I have a couple. So I have a couple different templates that I use when it comes to an outbound opener, right? So there's the straight up cold call. There's a referral. There's my favorite one. I call it the competition one. That's what I was using. And when I say competition, I'm using somebody else's name. So I might call a certain vertical, and let's say take a doctor's office, right? I call another doctor's office. Hey, Dr. So-and-so, we recently helped Dr. X solve this. There's and they got this as a result. There's a chance we could do the same for you. I just need to ask you a few questions. Would that be okay? And they're like, hey, who says no to that? Right? So there's different types that I use during different scenarios, but the competition one is my favorite. And that's where I use the name of somebody else that they know that's similar to what they do.
So I ask every guest who comes on this question, what keeps you up at night? And you strike me in the few conversations we've had as someone who now probably not a lot is keeping you up at night. It feels like you're very passionate about what you do, and you clearly, are very, very good at it. But is there something that is currently stressing you out job wise? And how are you actively working to address it?
Yeah, listen, I want to, it's funny you say that. I guess appearances, first impressions, things that mean a lot. I got to tell you, I don't know any entrepreneurs or whatever that, on the front side, they're looking at, there's always issues on the back that are keeping you up. You're right. It's always going to be there. And to be really frank, that the biggest one that keeps me up at night, and I'm almost ready to, I don't say throw the towel in, but forever, is like, I want to help as many salespeople as I can. But salespeople inherently will not invest in themselves. That's why they primarily focus on helping companies. Like I'll contact a small business owner or the CRO or the VP of sales or the business development director, right? And then get the conversation going, because it's a lot harder to get $5,000 out of a company to train a few reps than it is to get $500 out of an individual rep. I mean, most sales reps won't even spend money to buy a book, to invest in themselves. And I think that's just, I've noticed that throughout the entire industry, through my entire almost 30 years of selling, very few salespeople will invest time and money in them out of their own pocket to do stuff. And so what keeps me up with it, I still try to market to them sometimes, and I'll and try to find try to find a way to get the right price point to help them out. And it's just they don't want the help, so I just focus on the companies. But that's what keeps me back, because I'm so passionate about it. I'm like, dude, you could be making so much more money if you just did these things. Spend $500, $1,000, $2,000, whatever, to learn this stuff, and you're going to make it back 100-fold.
Have you seen, because as a person who has been training sellers for a while now, have you seen shifts, even like in the past couple of years, in the ways that you need to train people to get them to buy in, or to have you seen tactics that have shifted in how you need to help them approach their prospects over the past couple of years?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I come very direct. Look, I'm Italian. I'm from New York, even though I live down here in the Tampa Bay area, Florida right now. And I'm like, I don't want to hear about your feelings and things of that nature. Look, this is how it's done. Okay, do whatever you want, but this is how it's done. I'm using the same sales process now that I learned over 20 years ago, and it still works today, because I'm using the framework. Like, for example, if you really dissect the competition template example that I gave you with the doctors or whatever, the formula is the same no matter what industry you're in. It's the first thing I have to do is I have to pique their interest in the first few seconds of the call. How do I do that? Well, with the competition template, I'm piquing it by mentioning somebody else that they know that's in their industry. And then I mention a problem we helped them solve. And then I mention the result they got out of helping them solve that. And then I don't say I guarantee I could do that for you, because now that takes a different shift. I go, I might be able to help you do that, but to figure it out, I would have to ask you a few questions first. So what it does is it piques their curiosity and unlocks the door, and they go, yeah, come on in, ask me some questions. Rather than, and here's why I don't like the popular, 27-second opener that's out there. Hey, I know you're not expecting my call. Do you have 27 seconds to hear why I'm calling? Most people are going to be pleasant, just go, okay, sure, just shoot your shot, right? And then they do a data dump. And they just barf up what they're doing. And then they try to take control of the sale by asking a question, because that's what they were taught. And the problem is the prospect's guard is still up. So then you're starting to get those short one-word answer responses, where my way is I tell them right up front, agitate their pain and pique their interest and gain permission. And next thing you know, they allow me to ask them questions. And so now I just need to know what the right questions are to ask them to get that problem recognition. And then once we get that green light, then we go to the next one. And this is the system I teach. And so to answer it's a long answer to your question about have I had to shift? I think there's three types of people that come to my training, right? When the company signs you up, and I usually get some of the vets that have their arms crossed at first. They think they know everything. I get the younger generation that they don't even want to pick up the phone, even though that was in their job description. They're making 50, 60, 70, 80K base salary, and they don't want to pick it up. And then you get the eager ones that really want to pick it up. But what I can say for sure is some of the greatest things I've gotten is testimonials from the sales director saying, our top guy who didn't want to take the training is loving this stuff, and now their numbers are up. And it's just because it works. It's just a process that you have to follow.
Okay, I wanna dig into that a little bit, because the eager people, you're right, like that. You take that segment, of course they want to learn. They want to learn, if they're going to learn. The people who don't have any experience, I've actually had several conversations with some other kind of like sales influencers and people on various platforms for Orem, where we talked about there is this young generation right now of people who they're coming up in their SDRs and their BDRs, and they just have no experience on the phone, because even growing up, like I am old enough where growing up we had a landline, and I would call my friends if I wanted to go. Like I have experience picking up a phone, and they just, my nieces and nephews don't talk on the phone. And so if they were to become BDRs, they don't want to. Those people, I feel like they can be molded a little bit, and you can talk to them. I want to talk about those more veteran people, because everyone has come across those. I love the team we have here at Orem, but we have some of those people where I'll have a conversation with them as a marketer, and they're like, I don't want to talk to you. I just want to do my work. How do you help those seasoned / grizzled veterans? How do you show them, hey, this is worth your time? Like, how do you get them to continue learning and growing?
That's a great question. So I let them just take the course. So first of all, the course is all on demand, right? So I have a hybrid. So the actual training is on demand, and then I have live weekly classes that they could join and ask me questions. I could role play, fix their script if they're running into. But the actual training is on demand. So how do I get them to go from the first module and willing to watch the next one, right? And the modules are short. First of all, they have to be short and right to the point, because us salespeople, we have the attention span of a goldfish anyway. So anything that's too long, we're just going to fade out. So it's designed, and it's animated too. It's not just me. It's me speaking, but it's not just a video of me speaking. It's animated. So it's capturing their attention. They get to see what we're talking about, and it gives them actual sales techniques. Says, listen, if you're resistant, just listen to this thing. Okay, now go try it. And they go try it, and they go, holy shit, it worked. Okay, we'll try it again. Oh, it worked. Okay, try it again. Okay, that did work out. Keep trying it. Okay, well, it worked, 8 times out of 10. Now we got something. And then now they're like, that's where I usually hear after 1 week. Because I actually recommend that they only do one module a week over an 8-week period. So basically that's the other thing too. If you're going to train salespeople, it has to be in short chunks. I mean, this half day, whole day training stuff, even if it's the best information, it's too much for us to absorb. So what I do is I say, just set aside 1 hour a week of study time. And then for the rest of the week, put to practice what you've learned. And then you tell me if it ain't working. And if it's not working for you, come to the live class. Let's role play it, and I'll fix it for you. That's how we change it.
That's so smart. Because one of the things we talk a lot, we've been talking a lot here recent pieces of content, is time blocking, and how important, especially for like account executives who have to self-source. We say like, okay, well, you better time block 90 minutes a day or 2 hours a day, whatever it is, to do your own cold calling and all these different things. And yeah, the idea of going to a team of AEs who also have to self-source and be like, I need 4 hours of your time for the next 4 days. Like, they're just not going to do that. So I imagine that really does help pickup rate, I guess, if you want to say it, like from an account executive or even SDR saying like, okay, Michael, yeah, I can set aside an hour a week. Like, that's such a smart way of approaching it. I love that. That's great.
Yeah. Now that's with hour a week of the training. That includes watching the videos. There's exams that they have to pass in order to unlock the next video, things of that nature, to make sure they're doing it. But then I also give them role playing assignments. Listen, the only thing salespeople hate more than cold calling is role playing. But I assure you, iron sharpens iron, and you have to practice it the right way. So when you learn the right way to do it, and then you adapt it to your vertical, and then just do 5-10 minutes a day of role playing as a team to get better. What's going to happen is this: everybody's going to start to get better, or the people that we're never going to get better are going to fade out, and then that's fine. I mean, if they leave, whatever, because one of the things I heard a long time ago was, the worst thing a company could have is a good employee. And I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, because, a great employee will take your company to the next level. A bad employee is easy to recognize. They're not going to take it to the next level. You just get rid of them. But a good employee does just enough, to keep their job, but they never help the company get to the next level, right? So when you're doing the role playing, if they don't want to do it or they can't do it, they're going to get uncomfortable enough to where they're going to go, I need to leave, because that seat needs to generate, just like a restaurant, every table has to generate a certain amount of money every night. Those sales seats have to generate a certain amount of money every week, every month, every year, every quarter, whatever, right? And you need the right people in there, and they have to be willing to learn.
I love that. That is such a important way to realize it. And we've actually talked about how in the past, if an organization thought oh, we want to double our revenue, let's just double our seat count. That's not true anymore. It's you have to take into account all the money that goes into finding people, bringing them in, training them, onboarding them, getting them more assets in your tech stack, all these different things. And like you said, and then on top of all that, they are still responsible for X amount of dollars for their seat. So yeah, I really do love, we always talk about our platform, it's not just about 5xing productivity of your sales reps. It's about 5xing productivity of your best sales reps. It's about taking that cream of the crop and helping them be even more dynamic. And I have one question before we get to some of the lesser stressful stuff. I'm curious, as a person who has spent your entire career in sales, do you ever feel like you're able to take a breather? Like, do you ever feel like, okay, whether it's end of quarter, end of year, whatever it is, like, do you ever feel comfortable? Because that was something my dad always told me. He was like, I never felt, no matter how successful he was, and he was very successful, he never felt comfortable because he was always worried about the next thing.
Yeah, no, the answer is yes, you can. And the honest answer is, for the last year, it's been no, because there's definitely been a shift in the last year and a half, whatever. Now, we can blame the economy and all the crazy stuff that's going on, and I'm sure that has a lot to do with it for sales reps, myself included, things of that nature. But at the end of the day, I really think that the industry itself might be cannibalizing itself. What I mean by that is, so Aaron Ross, wrote the predictable revenue book, right? Next thing you know, over the last 10 years, everybody just hires SDRs, buys lists, sends emails out, and just, spray and pray and hope they get some appointments and things of that nature. And it's really not working anymore. And there's definitely a big swing coming back to, we got to pick up the phone. This is one of the things, I know we're talking about me right now, but this is one of the things why I was excited that we talked, because I've looked at your program. I love it. I think it's fabulous. Your dialer, it would definitely make my job easier when I got these leads. I got calling them, right? So, but with that being said, there's so many people that are afraid to pick up the phone, and they need to learn how to do that it's, when there's challenges like that, maybe some people are buying less. Just adding more people to the team is not going to help you get your revenue numbers. It might be better. You might have to cut some dead weight and maybe take some of that salary that you saved and put it to marketing to generate some more inbound stuff. But you better make sure that the team that you do have can handle inbound and outbound and know exactly what to do, because you need to close that revenue. And so, again, long answer to your question, can you ever take a break? You can, but the last year has been difficult. It's been balls to the wall for the last year, for sure.
And I think that the way that I think about people's apprehension on the phone is, it's the reality of understanding that you're going to hear an active no versus a passive no. Like, on an email, you're going to get a passive no. People are going to ignore your emails, or 1 out of every 100 is going to send you a snarky response. If you pick up the phone and you make 100, 150 dials a day using Orem, and you get 40 connections, if you book 5 meetings that day, you're crushing it. That means 35 other people told you to go pound salt. And so it is that, like, just getting that thick skin and realizing, like, it's not personal. It's just part of the business. 95% of any industry is not purchasing at any given time. It's all of these things, or maybe you just weren't very good on the phone and you got pretty harsh rejection. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so
it's both. I mean, so you have to be able to, like, I role play with so many people, and like, they've been in sales forever, right? Okay, let's role play. They're nervous, whatever. Okay, I'll give you a redo. Do it again. And you can still tell that they're like, even if they've been in sales for 10, 15 years, the simple formula of peak interest, gain permission, exceed the call. That's the only thing I want to teach them in my first lesson. How do you peak interest? Like for example, if I was calling somebody, a sales director or even a small business owner, and I said, hi, this is Michael Pedone with SalesBuzz. I offer sales training. Want to see if we can set up a meeting with your team? I could hear, no thanks, not interested. We're all set. We already use somebody, whatever, right? But if I call and I say, yeah, the reason for my call, I specialize in helping outbound sales teams overcome call reluctance. There's a really good chance I might be able to help you 5x the number of appointments you're setting a month. I just need to ask you a few questions about your team first. Would that be okay? All of a sudden, it's the same sales call. It's the same purpose, same call, but I just wordsmithed it differently. The formula, peak interest, and then gain permission. Now they're going, okay, yeah, sure. I have a second. Go ahead. Or I can't now, but call me at 2:00. Whatever, right? Okay. But now the biggest challenge I see with sales teams out there, let's say they set that meeting. What are you supposed to do next? Most salespeople don't know what to do next. Well, even if the person says, yeah, I got a second, go ahead. They don't know what's step number 2. And that needs to be fixed, because every salesperson should know before they pick up the phone, there's only 3 things that's going to happen. They're either going to get the prospect, gatekeeper, or voicemail. They need to know how to handle each one of those no matter what scenario they are. And that's how you get rid of call reluctance. And then once you can do that, then you have to know, okay, wow, I got them on the phone. They agreed to talk. Not used to that. What do I say next? You have to know what the next step is.
We, one of the customer stories that I wrote over I don't remember the company specifically at the moment, but we had account executives tell us like one of the biggest benefits of Orem is because you're using our parallel or our power dialer, and it's one number after the other, and it automatically drops voicemails for you. So if people don't pick up, you don't have to worry about that. But they basically told us, to your point, he was like, what shifted for me from manually dialing all of these prospects to using your platform is I now expect someone to pick up relatively soon. So I am expecting to have that conversation. So to your point, he's like, I'm ready with my opener. I'm ready. I know what I'm going to say. And I'm thinking about the conversation at all times. Whereas like when I'm manual dialing, it's, 3 minutes for every phone call. I don't expect them to pick up. And when someone does pick up, I'm like, this is Adam from Orem. What's up? And they were just like, I anticipate someone picking up now. And to your point, so they're like, I'm thinking about the call. And so I think that's such an important thing, because you're right. Like, you can't anticipate a no. If you're anticipating a no when they say, sure, Michael, I'd love to hear more. And then when you're like, oh shit, I was supposed to say something else here. Like, yeah, you're right. You have to keep going. So,
and that comes down to training. I mean, look, right now, I think I noticed that the Tampa Bay Bucks are already doing their training camp today, right? They're getting their players. They're walking through the scenarios. The notepads on, things of that shit. But these are the plays, and so many salespeople are against scripts because I think there were like sales people out there that were afraid of scripts, so they said don't use them. And I think that's the biggest mistake ever, because first of all, let me just say this. I will be the first to agree that most sales scripts create more problems than they solve because they're not written the right way and they're not taught the right way. But at the end of the day, if you want to grow your team, they all need to be on the same page. They all need to know the plays to run. I mean, can you imagine showing up on opening day football and the team just goes out there with no playbook, right? I mean, you have to know. Right? I mean, first and 10 at the 20, this is the play we're running. Now, sure, the other team might have something to say about the play you're running. So then you have to pivot in real time, but you had a framework to work with. And most salespeople don't have a framework from the start all the way through the end. And that's what I fix.
For what it's worth, I'm born and bred in Cleveland area. I've been a Browns fan all my life. So for a long time in my childhood, it did kind of feel like our team did not have a playbook and they just were showing up on game days. Better now, but I digress.
I understand.
Yeah, I could get in the weeds with you about this all day, but I wanna transition to our kind of third segment here, which is just some fun, lighthearted questions. The first one: what was the first job you ever had? This could be as a kid. This could be out of high school. What was the first job you had?
No, the first job I had, I was a kid. First of all, I was born in 1970, so that means in the 80s. And I'm a hard rock, heavy metal head, right? I got my idol Angus Young back here on this tapestry, right? And so, I was fortunate enough to see all the best concerts of all the best hard rock, heavy metal, AC/DC, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Kiss, Ozzy, Black Sabbath, Dio. I seen them all, right? But we were poor, so the only way I was going to that is I had to go borrow my grandfather's lawnmower and go knock on doors and this is when I knew tickets were going to be coming. I need to figure out how to generate $25, $10 a lawn, and ironically, I would quit as soon as I got enough money and bought the ticket. Well, I'm going to need a concert shirt. Better go mow some more lawns. So that's really how it started. That was my first job for sure.
I love it. That's fantastic. What was, you don't need to name names of the companies, but what was the worst job you've ever had?
That's easy. But it was most likely Denny's. I was a midnight dishwasher, and it was after, like I said, I never went to college. It was after high school. And I was actually in Youngstown, Ohio, not far from you at the time. And, I had a band. We were playing a hard rock, heavy metal band in the area, and things of that nature. But I also had to have a work. And the only job I could get at the time was, where I was washing dishes, and they could still smoke during the restaurant. So you get some nasty dishes back there and you just felt like a loser, but I had a dream, and with the music that I was going to and things of that nature. And, the music ended up didn't working out, but after that, I ended up getting believe it or not, my first sales job was selling cars. It was Greenwood Chevrolet in Boardman, Youngstown, Ohio area. I was horrible at it. And then I went to work for a music store, like a physical where they sold instruments. And then all of a sudden everything clicked, maybe because I was in my element, but all the techniques that they taught me where I was afraid to ask for the order and things of that nature. And I was like, it just started clicking. And then I started researching and I started buying books and things, audio tapes. I'm aging myself again, audio tapes and things of that nature. And just started learning and learning and learning. Next thing I know, I'm making more money than, my stepdad was at the time. Right. And it's just like, okay, so this is kind of a good thing. So that's kind of how it all kicked off.
I love that. Listen, as a person who in college and graduate school, I like to play poker late at night. So I have been to Denny's in the middle of the night many, many a time. So I definitely know the people that you are speaking of. Do you have a favorite app on your phone from a productivity standpoint? Like, do you have an app that you use to time yourself to create content or anything that you use on your phone just from a productivity standpoint?
I'm actually going to go a different direction. I actually, the other day, deleted the LinkedIn app off my phone.
Wow. Say more about that.
Yeah. I was like, you know what? We've been burning the midnight oil for 12 months. Things been rough out there. You've had to work extra. You're getting all this thing. And so it was just stressing me out a little bit. I'm like, you know what? I don't think this app, I'm getting notified all the time and having to repost or respond to somebody in real time is not healthy for me. And I'm just going to delete it. And I've been, scheduling time to go on LinkedIn and do things a little bit, a lot less. But believe it or not, sometimes I think that we have to, sometimes there's addition by subtraction.
I love that. I'm a distance runner, and there's an app called Strava for people who may not be familiar. It is basically just like a social media app for runners. It's where you can track all of your workouts, but you can also kind of create a community of people to connect with. A few weeks ago, I severely rolled my ankle and haven't been able to run in a couple of weeks. And same thing, I stopped looking at it. And my dad was like, I haven't seen you active on there, because my dad's also a runner. And I was like, yeah, I was crushing my mental health, seeing everyone else's runs, knowing that I can't. So I love that. That's really, really great. How about for fun? Is there any app you use for fun? Again, I mentioned Strava, but is there anything, are you a fan of scrolling through Instagram or anything? Is there an app that you use?
I should be better at Instagram and all that other stuff. I really need to get better at the social media thing, right? As for to grow the business, but really for fun, it's the chess.com app. I really like playing chess on there.
You are the second person in I think 10 interviews I've done so far for this podcast. You're the second person to say the chess.com app. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's fun.
What would be your ideal work day?
The ideal work day would be lots of quote requests coming in, right? That would be it. But, I think I'm living the day that I want. I really structured the company to where it's it's on my time. And what I've had to do recently, where I've made that shift, if we go back to earlier in the conversation, where I was always trying to help the individuals and have pricing on there to help individuals, make it easy for them to sign up. And then it was actually bringing my business down. So I've actually had throw them out of the boat basically and just focus on corporations that need my help. That's where the money is. And so now it's I can just raise my prices. They're still, I'm told they're still way, they're way fair for what they're getting. So that's nice. But I just raise my prices so I just need less clients. And, that's what I'm doing. I get a couple quote requests. I do some of my cold outreach. I get a couple deals. And I think mental health is a big thing. And so where I've seen a lot of people are saying you have to do $100 a day or whatever. Listen, if you have an auto dialer, sure, you can do $100 in 5 minutes. But, the big thing is you need to measure talk time. And so, my thing before the auto dialers were a thing, it was $60 a day, $60 a day and or 3 hours of talk time. That was the goal to try to average. Most salespeople average $10, $15 a day and an hour of talk time. What are you doing with the other 7 hours of the day? It's not the activities that's going to pay you the most. And I think if you're getting a high salary, anything over 40 grand as a base salary, I think you're going to start to see companies cut back on that, or your job might be in jeopardy if you're not producing that high level of a thing. So with that being said, back to my work day, I make sure that my perfect work day, I've got all the systems running where I got inbound leads. I got the time to do my outbound stuff. I'm helping the clients I can. And then I'm not stressed out after work. It's just, I live down here in Florida in Dunedin now. And it's time to go outside and enjoy the weather a little bit.
I love that. And then, okay, last one of these. This is very on brand with what we've been chatting about. What cold call opener would get you to at least hear a pitch? Obviously, I know the way that you work, but if someone was calling you, what would at least let you would be like, okay, let me hear what you got.
Yeah, anything that piques interest in the beginning of a problem that I might be having. You know, I mean, you know, the number one cold calls I get right now are for IT to see if I need any IT development stuff or if I need cleaning, you know, office cleaning stuff. This seems like a repeat, like the most, and I'm like, they didn't do any research at all. First of all, I'm a small company, so I feel like I'm a solopreneur. I have a team, but they're outsourced teams, so they work, you know, it's fractional, you know, fractional marketing, things of that nature. It's just a smarter way right now. But I also work from home, right? So I don't need, you know, I don't have a whole office to clean. I'm like, why are you, you know, and I think this is a lesson for all salespeople, because you will burn out really fast if you do not know what your ideal client looks like. And if you do not take the time before you get on the phone or send the emails to build a list of people that match your best clients and what they look like. You have to know what your ICP is, your ideal customer profile. And then the basics could be from location to title to average income or revenue, employee size, things of that nature. You just get some of the basics down. And then you build your list of people that probably have a problem that I help solve because they look like all my other best clients. Build that list and then just be direct with them. But know that you have to agitate a pain, scratch an itch at the beginning. Got to mention a problem that you don't know that listen, even if you know they have a problem, you can't call and tell them they have a problem because they're going to doubt it. That's when you hear things like, oh, yeah, I hear you, but, you know, this is the way we always done it, or we already, you know, things of that nature. But, you know, when you come in with a problem to something that maybe they're not even thinking about, and you agitate that pain, scratch that itch, all of a sudden they're curious. So anything that's going to mention a problem that I might be dealing with, I'm going to listen to what you have to say for a second.
I love that. Michael, give my listeners some information. Where can they find more information about SalesBuzz? How can they get in touch with you if they're interested in some training and all that good stuff?
Yeah, salesbuzz.com has everything you need. It's going to have the entire curriculum right there. You'll see what, you know, every lesson that's included in there. And if you're interested, whether you're an individual or I'll just tell you right now, it's $1,000 for an individual to take the course. But I have great discounts for group rates that are on there. But it also includes not just the on-demand, it includes the live, it includes progress reports and tracking it for managers to see where everybody's at and how they're doing. And I just got right before this, I got a testimonial. The guy says, we only been doing this for 30 days and we 5x our appointment setting. I'm like, that's great. And they're not even halfway through the course yet. And it was just the beginning. And that's where most of it is. If you just fix the basics, you're going to make so much more money. I feel like sometimes I'm yelling at the top of the mountain and nobody's listening. So that's why I got to get better at social, you know, to get them there.
Amazing. Well, Michael, I appreciate this so much. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, Adam. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.